Hello guys, welcome back. As always, thanks for tuning in. Jay Helmsing here. Today I'm going to talk about a product that I've been using for about 2 weeks now. It is called the Barrel Blok, and it's definitely something that has improved my dry fire system, so maybe something you want to look into. And I'll kind of tell you about how I stumbled across this product, and also what it's done so far, how to use it, things like that. So basically, this product is kind of a solution for an issue I was having with Project One Gun. And if you're not familiar with it, Project One Gun is basically an experiment that I'm trying to see if I can do everything I need to with just this particular Glock 19 Gen 5, as far as live fire training, defensive carry, and also my dry training, doing everything just on this gun to see what issues I run into and if it's even possible to be done. Now I know some people out there do that, but I'm kind of a volume shooter. I do a lot of shooting. I do a lot of training, things like that. So I just kind of wanted to see if it's going to leave me wanting anything or if there are any big issues I'm going to confront in the process. Something I noticed right away was the transition between a defensive gun and a training gun, specifically a dry fire training gun. Now, a lot of the big time shooters will have specific guns that they use for dry fire training, whether that be an SRT gun or SIRT pistol or whatever you want to call them, or a specific gun that is that's their dry fire gun. Maybe it's an old used up actual firearm or something like that. And kind of what it does is it streamlines your process, okay? So instead of just carrying around your defensive weapon, you have a dedicated dry fire weapon that primarily is unloaded most of the time. You obviously still should check it and make sure before you start your dry fire process, but that's what a lot of people do. So the issue that I was running into is carrying this weapon hot and then going into dry fire status. Now, obviously, a big neglected part of dry fire is setting up your safety procedures before you get into your dry firing. What I typically do is I would come and I would unload the weapon in a different room. I would separate that live ammunition from the weapon itself, and I had dedicated dry fire mags that are always empty. And then I would go to a specific room to dry fire away from the live ammunition, and I would triple redundancy check this. So I would check it 3 times, ensuring that it's unloaded before I start my process. That's still what I do, and that's something that I recommend everyone do. Obviously, triple check your magazines as well. Make sure they're empty. There are no live rounds in anything you have. Just a really good rule of thumb to follow as far as dry fire procedures, because you're using in most cases a live weapon, and all it takes is just one little bobble, one little mistake, because these are tools of lethality, right? So one little mistake could cost someone their life, and that's probably the biggest tragedy of firearm ownership, are these accidents that happen, accidents that occur with firearms in the home, right? So we really got to make sure that we have a procedure in place before we start dry firing to make sure that our weapon is safe. So I would go through this process, and even though, and as you guys notice, especially when I'm dry firing, I physically put my finger in there and verify that chamber is empty. It's overkill. You really don't have to do that. You can see down in there perfectly clear and make sure that it's empty. However, it's just something that I was taught in the academy, and it's something that I think, why not? If it's something this important, why not just take that extra thousandth of a second, put my finger in there and verify that there is nothing in that chamber, even though I'm seeing nothing in there, right? So I would go through that process, and then I would just use my empty magazines, making sure they're empty, load it in the weapon, and then I'd go about my dry fire procedure. Now, nothing happened, obviously. There is nothing that occurred that started this, but obviously I had this kind of thought in the back of my head, because this weapon is hot so many times, I really, really, really got to be careful when I go about my dry fire procedure. And obviously, typical rule of thumb, do the ammunition checks, go to a separate room. Obviously, never dry fire and toward anybody. You want to be pointing in a safe direction at all times, whether the weapon is unloaded and verified unloaded or not. Make sure you're pointing in a safe direction toward the outer walls of your house and so on before you do that. And a lot of people will even put up maybe like a Kevlar panel that they're pointing at, just as a last barrier, just as a kind of final bit of redundancy in there to make sure that there is absolutely zero chance of an accident happening, or an accident getting out of control and actually injuring somebody. So just some food for thought going into this. Now, what I would do is I would start my dry fire procedure, but obviously in the back of my mind there was just a little bit of lack of confidence, because I know how often this weapon is loaded. A little bit of I wouldn't say a phobia, but just a small fear back there that, and I would find myself, before I would do it, make sure, okay, all right, make sure I don't have any live ammunition on me, make sure my spare magazine is put away, that sort of thing. So what I ended up doing is I found this product called the Barrel Blok. And what it does, I wanted something that I could insert in there and give me a visual indicator that it was unloaded. Kind of like, you know, with the training blocks and things like that you put in your barrel and just kind of block the barrel. The problem with that is they typically leave the slide half open like this and out of battery as an extra safety precaution. That's not going to work for dry fire. As you know, the slide being in a out of battery position, you don't have anything there. You can't do any dry firing that way. So what this product does, as I pull it out of here, I'll show you the 9mm version on my Glock 19 here. This color-coded orange for 9mm, but basically what it does is you have this, looks like a dummy round here on the end, and it's connected to this long, almost straw-like, maybe they're going to ban these in California, almost straw-like appendage here that fits in your barrel. So this serves as kind of like a barrel flag, like I was talking about, to visually indicate that your weapon is unloaded and your weapon's in a safe condition. And obviously you also have like a dummy round attached to it, so it's you know, could take some of the stress off of that striker or that firing pin as it, you know, goes to make contact. It's not just banging against the machine part of the slide there, it's actually making contact with the round itself. And so I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And if you notice back here on the end, it's also kind of machined down. There is no rim on this, so you can function your you know, cycle your slide without worrying about ejecting this thing or pulling it back out of the barrel. So I was like, well, that's a pretty cool idea, because that'd give me at least a visual indicator when I'm dry firing. It kind of give me that extra peace of mind that I do have an unloaded weapon and I know it's in a safe condition and it cannot be defeated out of that safe condition. So that kind of attracted me there. When I looked at their system, I also noticed that they have these things called mag blocks. So you get 3 of these with this system. And these mag blocks are really cool as well. So what they do, one side of it is kind of rounded like a normal round. The other side is kind of, I guess you'd say, hollowed out. There's really nothing there. It just says the caliber on it. And what you do is you load it in your magazine, just the top of it, like you would just a dummy round. Okay. So you load it in there like that with the kind of open, the canoe part or the machined part facing up. And then when you load these into your pistol, what they allow is they allow them to drop freely without any sort of issue. So they're going to basically drop out just like they would if they were loaded mags. Of course, these are a little bit lighter, but you could probably load them down with some weight in some way, shape, or form. You know, some sort of inert weight, whether that be dummy rounds or whatever. And then use this for your last one there. And it's also made so that I just manually push this up, but it's made so that you can continuously cycle without your magazine locking your slide to the rear. Okay, so it kind of defeats this this magazine or this slide release here. It's going to defeat that, and it's going to keep it in a down position. So again, you can dry fire without your slide being locked open, because you have something in the magazine that's basically the same function as a live round would be. So you get two bonuses there. Also, you know, you verify that your magazines are empty. There's no way that this thing's going to be loaded into the weapon. That's what that little channel's for there. And it's going to basically stay there out of the way. So you verify again that your weapon is unloaded as another layer of safety. So I was like, well, that's cool. You get 3 of those. You get your little barrel block here. I got my whole system going on. Seems like a really cool system to use, or at least a sound peace of mind to use when dry firing. And then I found the price, and that's kind of what is amazing about this system. So if you buy it from them directly from Barrel Blok, their website is blocksafety.com. This system here with the, like I say, the 3 mag blocks and the Barrel Blok is $13, so it's $12.99. And I was like, you really can't go wrong. For $13, is the safety factor worth it? And I would say absolutely yes. So we'll go through actually using this system here in just a moment. But the first thing I want to tell you guys, and you can't really tell this from the video, but this is kind of a flexible, it's like a, it's not really a polymer, it's almost like some sort of a really rubbery plastic. It is stiff, but it's not going to break on you, okay? So the thing is, like, if you needed to feed this in there, obviously if it was very stiff, you'd have to take your weapon completely apart, load it in the barrel, put the barrel back in the slide, that sort of thing. With these, what I do is I basically bend the end of it, just kind of give it a little bit of a curve there. I've got my weapon in an unloaded condition with the slide open, and then I just kind of feed it through there like I would a boar snake or something. And then you can just pull the excess out of the end here. All right, and then you can kind of flex this whichever way you need to go. So if it's in your line of sight or something, you can kind of flex that down out of the way. And now if I look through the sights, I don't notice that. I don't see any of this indicator here at all unless I'm looking at the weapon from the side or something like that. So what I do then, release the slide, make sure that it's in the fully into battery there, and there we go. So as you guys can see, and I'll put this in here as well, as you guys can see, I can dry fire all day. My dummy round, my snap cap is not going to pop out. I've got a visual indicator that I'm unloaded. I've got an extra safety measure making sure that my magazines are unloaded, and I can practice mag changeouts with no issue. So in other words, if I lock this open manually and I go to insert a magazine, I'm going to have the same force I would have if it was loaded to actually drop this slide by using the slide release and make it function. If you're a one of the ones that pull back on the slide, you can do that with this bad boy in there. So it gives you some extra kind of flexibility in your program, and it also is it's a safety device. It's keeping you safe, making sure that everything you're doing is done in a safe manner as far as dry fire is concerned. So I'm really pumped about this. I think it's a really awesome product, and I'm really shocked that it's not more popular than it seems to be out there. Definitely check them out. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I'll try to answer those. Just before we kind of close this out, if you guys notice, these marks here, these little kind of hash marks, are made to be cut. Okay, so if you obviously in this Glock 19, I would probably use maybe the last one here, and I would just cut it off here, and that's probably what I'm going to do here in just a little bit. My biggest concern is having enough out to draw it through, to actually pull it securely in there without having to push it down, because I think that'd kind of be a little bit of a pain. So I may leave it just a little bit long there, but obviously make sure it clears with your holster. This fits in my holster fine the way it is, so I haven't had any real issues. But that's something to think about. Some of the holsters do, like the Safari Lands, will go in the end of the barrel there, so you might have to trim it actually back further even. Then you're going to lose that visual indicator on there, but if it has to fit in your holster that way, that's something you have to do. It's still going to provide, I feel like, that peace of mind. You inserted that barrel block in there, you know that your barrel is blocked off, you know there's no way that live ammunition could be loaded in. So awesome product in that respect there. I will talk about something I don't really use this for, but it is marketed in their literature here. They do send this with every one of them, kind of show you how to do it. And they also offer this rifle block here, this for AR style rifles, same sort of thing if you're doing training or combatives or anything like that. Probably an awesome product to use, and again, inexpensive, simple, not much to break, seems like it's well built. So I don't really see any drawbacks at this point as far as using this system, and I think it's a pretty cool setup. But they do have them in different calibers. I think I saw 40, 357 SIG, 45 ACP, which I have right here, 9mm, 380, and then obviously the rifle block for the AR platform. So pretty cool setup. But I will tell you something that this is marketed for. They call these holster indicators, I believe, or holster distance indicators. So something they say you can use this for is if you trim it back to a certain length or something like that, it'll make sure that you're removing your weapon to the correct height before you're starting the rotation out of the holster. So in other words, this block obviously is going to be a clearance rod at that point, and make sure that you clear your holster before you start the rotation process up. So kind of an extra little tactile training method there, if it'll work in your holster and you don't have one that inserts in the barrel. But it gives you just something to kind of indicate if you're up far enough, especially if you're doing rapid sort of draw in rapid shooting and things like that. Give you an indicator to make sure that you're clearing your holster enough to get it rotated out of position. So another cool thing it could be used for that is in the marketing here. But yes, that is the Barrel Blok in a nutshell. And they are color coded in different colors for the caliber. And again, every system that I've seen has these three, you can use 3 different mags, so it has the 3 mag blocks with it as well. So that's also pretty cool. You can have your dry fire mag set up and ready to go and just leave them in there. Pretty much the only drawback that I've noticed is once these are in here, they're kind of a pain to get out by design. I mean, there's, this clears the channel here so that it can't be loaded into the weapon. So you really got to do a little bit of finagling. What I've noticed is if you rotate it, push down on one side and kind of rotate it, it's going to just pop out like that. So some things to notice, some tricks of the trade, if you will. But that's really the only thing. As far as getting this out, we'll kind of show you that too. Again, I just leave enough out here. This is not cut, but I'm going to leave enough out here that I can just kind of push it out, fish it out, and you know, you can either push it straight down and fish it out of the bottom there, or you can probably, see if I can get it to do this here. You can leave it just enough to get your finger under it here and then kind of snake it out the way it came in. So just some ideas on how to use that system there. Again, if for nothing else, to make your dry fire practice safe and help keep you, your family, your neighbors, and really all of us safe while we enjoy our shooting sports. So definitely check them out, Barrel Blok. It is blocksafety.com if you're interested in looking into this. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and continue to practice your craft. Until next time, Jay Helmsing.